Number one, assess your accuracy. How certain are you? Posed this question in an email after our retreat last year. I wrote an email about that question. What do you know with 100% certainty to be true? First fucking reply, a kid responds, God is real. I'm like, that's not certainty. Have you met him? Certainty is the death of thinking. Certainty is the death of thought. What you think you know is in the way of figuring out what you don't know. If you ask yourself, are omega-3s good for you? There's a gut reaction, right? Most of us would say yes. Do you actually know? Like the fish oil in the cupboard's good for you? We've heard lots of doctors tell us that they're good. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying we don't know. I'm probably like, 70% sure the fish oil I take is benefiting me. Maybe 60. Do we know pesticides are bad for us? Again, I eat organic food, but have you tested it? There's a lot of scientific literature around the difference in health long-term, people that eat organic and don't, that says there's no difference. It's like meaningful literature. So how do we know? Pesticide sounds like a bad thing, but is it actually affecting us and how much? So that's the level of scrutiny. Again, I'm not saying don't believe, well, I am saying don't believe anything just blindly. I am saying that. But that doesn't mean we have to say oh, nothing is real, that swing the total opposite way. That's not the point at all. It's hold all beliefs lightly in your mind and ask yourself continuously, how certain am I that this is true? And it's not 100%. So magic question. You'll hear me say this hopefully 12 times if I do my job right throughout the rest of today. Why is this not true? That's the magic phrase. To be running like an automated program in your mind. Why is this not true? Another way of framing this is not trying to be right, trying to be less wrong. Thoughts are not facts. Number two, check your bases. On what basis do I place this belief set? This set of beliefs, on what basis do I believe this? My first major solo trip, I went to Bali. My mom and dad were telling me oh my God, take care of your wallet. These people are you're going to get robbed. Be careful. Oh my God. They've never been to Bali. I went to Bali and those people were so much nicer than any of the wider North American population I'd ever met. So still to this day, probably the nicest people in the world. One day I leave my wallet and a camera on the beach at this beach bar. The next day I'm walking by the beach bar. I didn't know I'd left it. I forgot it. Guy who works there runs up to me with the entire wallet, not a dollar missing, and the camera, gives it back to me. Point being, that was a baseless belief. She wasn't basing that on anything except for her own biases, pretty much. Okay. Are aliens real? Are aliens real? Do aliens exist? If no, on what basis do you state that fact? Have you checked every corner of the universe for aliens? And if not, assuming it's true that we are a very small subsection of the universe, does it not stand to reason that there's probably other life out there? Are we so arrogant? You see, on what basis do we generate this belief? I had an ex-girlfriend who she was into healing stuff, nutritional therapies, supplements and whatnot. And she used to constantly say to me oh, there's this new thing that whatever formula, my friend told me it changed her life. I'm is your friend a fucking expert? Did she do a mass peer-reviewed study on this and review the literature and test it through direct experience? And this girlfriend was just oh, I'm going to start taking this. You got to take it too. It's amazing. My friend said it changed her life. Baseless or relatively baseless. And how many things do we just take on assumption as being true with very little basis. Seek simplicity. Occam's razor is the technical term for this, or the popular term. The simplest answer is usually the right one. There's a story about Elon Musk, and he's a kid, his cousins are over, his cousins are afraid of the dark, but if there's monsters in the closet, this type of shit. And Elon just goes, darkness is just the absence of light. It's the same room without light. Simplest answer is the right one. Monsters in the closet's a really complicated answer. Like, you have to make some leaps in your mind to get there. So be looking for, like, how can I distill this down to the very simplest answer? And usually, not always, but usually the simplest one is the right one. I've told this story a million times about my going into my junior year of high school. I concocted like the ultimate training program where I was doing Olympic lifting, powerlifting, skill training, track work, pickup games, ball handling workouts, shooting workouts. It's like, the ultimate program, I'm going to do everything. Didn't get any better. Got hurt. It's like really complicated answer. When I was like, okay, lift, skill workout, play games. Got better. The simplest answer is the right one.
This is an example in the book I was reading about Occam's razor. This guy was camping with his girlfriend, with their best friends, and they're having a great time. When they get back from the trip, the girlfriend's being weird and kind of distant and stuff. And so he jumps to this conclusion that she cheated on him with his girlfriend's friend and like all this other stuff, and like all these crazy assumptions. When the answer was she was just started her period, and that was the truth. And this guy's like, how she's breaking up with me, she's cheating on me, like all this craziness. Yeah. What went wrong at the camp? Did I say something wrong? It's like, nah, she just started her period, bro. Like,
has anybody ever done that? Like, simple. That can save you a lot of headache in relationships, by the way, but also in business. The really complicated funnel with multiple steps and options and variations, and the simplest way to find out if a sales page is working in your marketing is to test 2 variations. It's not to test 10 variations at once and a whole bunch of different versions of those variations to test price and headline and video, all of that at once. It's just 2 things. Just test the price. That's the simplest way forward. There's a million examples of this. Steve Jobs designing the iPhone. It's like, no, not a keyboard, 1 button. The original iPhones, remember when they had buttons? 1 button?
No stylus, you got 5 of them.
Yeah, exactly. Simple. Who said that quote last night? Simplicity is the ultimate. Was it Liam? You want to say it?
Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication.
Exactly. So a mind that can generate through a sophisticated process, the stuff we're talking about is not necessarily like so obvious. We weren't trained in it. Through a sophisticated process can generate this elegantly simple answer. That's how you know you've achieved some degree of mastery in thinking. I'll say as a sort of subpoint here, different but very similar, adjacent, is beware of extremes. Any extreme point of view, the carnivore diet, shit like this. What was your line, Mace? Low fap, not no fap. Again, I want to emphasize that point. If the answer is complicated, it could probably use some refinement. Any overcomplication, any like extreme answers, dogmatic answers, anything that leads you towards like overactivity is a big one, like that training program example. If you're feeling like, oh, I need to do like 50 fucking things. I need to post on Twitter and on Instagram and have a separate YouTube channel and a podcast and a sales funnel and run it. It's like, nah, you just need a good offer. You just need a good offer. So beware of any of those extremes: complexity, overthinking, or overactivity. Hey, it's Taylor. I hope you enjoyed today's clip. And if you did, here's where you can go deeper right now. So my favorite part of the work that I do here is a daily email newsletter that I write every morning on the topics of human development and human potential, life strategy, training the mind, productivity and life optimization, and generally speaking, the path to self-mastery. And so if you enjoy these talks, I know you're going to love the newsletter. And if you'd like to check it out, hit the link in the description or head over to taylorallen.me and you can sign up free of charge. I hope we see you there.